if you've spent any time talking to me or listening to me, you know I'm not much for structure or formality or rules, but there are instances where those things are very important. And especially when we're talking about laws and business laws, rules and language really matter. And one of the areas where I see this get screwed up a lot, and it's really a pet peeve of mine, is when we talk to people about what type of entity they have for their business. So usually when we're talking about entities, we're talking about creatures of state law, things that are different, a little different in every state, and they're created by the individual states. Those are usually things like LLCs, limited liability companies, or things like corporations. And that's the extent, really, of the state aspects of entities. But what a lot of people get screwed up is they will tell us that they have an S corporation. And the problem with saying that is an S corporation isn't actually a thing. You can have either an LLC or a corporation elect to be taxed as an S corporation. So the S-Corp election is actually something on the federal level. It's a tax decision. It's something that you report to the IRS. So when somebody asks you what type of entity you have, you may be a sole proprietorship, you may be a partnership, or you could have an LLC or a corporation that elects to be taxed under subchapter S. So if somebody asks you, make sure you're precise in your language and you explain what it actually is. I actually Googled this the other day because it was bothering me. I Googled the most common types of entities in America, and it was something like 20% LLCs and 10% corporations and 40% S corporations. And that doesn't make any sense. It has to be either an LLC or a corporation. And then that corporation can be taxed as a subchapter S or as a C corporation. So that language is very important. So once you understand the language, then we can start talking about some of the benefits of that tax election. So why would a business owner want to make an S corporation election? There's a handful of reasons, but the most compelling one is usually for some form of tax savings. So if you make an S corporation election, whether you have an LLC or a corporation, you can put yourself as the owner of the business on the payroll of the business, and you pay yourself a reasonable salary. You will pay taxes on that, of course. You'll pay income taxes, you'll pay employment taxes. But then the profit that the business generates, you'll actually pay a lower tax rate on because you don't pay self-employment taxes. So the strategy is to attempt to pay yourself a low reasonable salary so that more of your profits are distributed to you and taxed at that lower rate. Now, of course, this gets audited all the time by the IRS, and you want to make sure that your reasonable salary actually is reasonable, which is very much a lawyer phrase. Nobody actually knows what it means, but there's guidance that you can get on this. So it's not something that you want to mess around with. It is audited pretty frequently. But for a lot of business owners, it can save you thousands or tens of thousands of dollars every single year. So one of the most compelling reasons to set up your S corporation or to make the S corporation election is to save on your taxes. So what are the steps to set up your S corporation? Well, first, you actually have to have your entity. So there's some decisions to be made about what state you'll actually do the filing in, but a lot of our clients are in Pennsylvania. They decide to set up their entity in Pennsylvania. We, of course, give them some input on this. So you would create your LLC, for example, in the state of Pennsylvania. And then you're going to get your EIN. Your EIN is like your social security number for your business. A lot of people get this out of order. They go and get their EIN before they even set up the company, and that's the wrong way to do it. You can create major issues for yourself if you do it that way. So set up your entity first, then get your EIN. You should not be paying a separate fee to get your EIN. When we do it for our clients, it's included in the service that we provide. We don't charge extra for it. You should not be paying a separate vendor to do this. It's pretty quick and easy to do online, although there are mistakes that you can make. If you're using a professional to set up your entity, they should also get your EIN. Then the next step is to make your S corporation election. And this happens on Form 2553 with the IRS. And one of the reasons that we're talking about this right now is you've got a deadline to do this. typically you have to make this election before March 15th for the prior tax year. So we're coming up on the deadline now. If you haven't taken those first steps yet to set up your entity or to get your EIN, you're not going to be able to have an S corporation in time, or there's no reason to make that election until you have those other pieces in place.